My name is Akhtar. I wasn't born into comfort. I wasn't raised with opportunities handed to me. I came from a place where survival was more important than dreams, where people didn't ask what you want to become. They asked how you will survive tomorrow. My father, Mr. Rashid, was a simple man, a man of dignity, but life never gave him ease. And maybe that's where my story really begins, not with success, but with struggle written into my blood. I spent my childhood not in my own home, but in my uncle's house. Imagine being a child, watching other kids run into their parents' arms, while you quietly sit in a corner, learning to stay strong without saying a word. That was me. I learned silence before I learned confidence. But in that silence, I found something powerful: hunger. Not for food, but for a better life. While living there, I completed my studies. Not because it was easy, but because I knew one thing: education was my only way out. Every night, I used to tell myself, Akhtar, one day you will change everything. And finally, that day came. After completing my education, I opened a small computer shop. It wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, but it was mine. That tiny shop became my world. Day by day, customer by customer, I didn't just build a business, I built relationships. I treated people with respect. I listened to their problems. I helped them beyond profit. And slowly, something magical happened. People started trusting me. My shop wasn't just a shop anymore. It became a place where people felt understood. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. I started earning. I started dreaming again. And just when life finally started smiling at me, it stopped. Suddenly, the business slowed down, then slower, and then silence. The same silence I had grown up with came back again. Bills didn't stop, needs didn't stop, but income did. That's when I made one of the hardest decisions of my life. I decided to leave my city and move to Karachi, a city full of strangers, a city that doesn't care who you are. But I had no choice. When survival calls, fear becomes irrelevant. In Karachi, I got a job in a private company, a water supply company, working as a computer operator. And once again, I gave it everything I had. I worked honestly. I worked sincerely. I treated the company like it was my own, because that's who I am. But sometimes, being honest in a dishonest system is dangerous. I started noticing things: corruption, fraud, people stealing from the very company that fed them. At first, I stayed quiet. But silence was never meant to be my destiny. I couldn't watch it happen. I couldn't betray my own values. So I stood up. And that's when everything changed. People who used to smile at me started hating me. People who once worked beside me started plotting against me. Whispers turned into complaints. Respect turned into hostility. And slowly, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just unwanted anymore. I was in danger, real danger. There were days I felt like someone was watching me. Moments where my heart would race for no reason. Nights where I couldn't sleep because something didn't feel right. All because I chose honesty. I went to my boss and told him the truth. I told him everything. And then I said something I never thought I'd say. Sir, I want to leave. My life is in danger. That moment was one of the most painful moments of my life. Not because I was leaving a job, but because I was forced to walk away from something I gave my heart to. Eid came, and I returned home. But deep inside, I knew one thing: I was never going back. No matter how many calls came, no matter how many times they asked me to return, some places are not worth your life. And sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. When I left Karachi, I didn't just leave a job behind. I left a part of myself there. The part that still believed that hard work alone could protect you. I returned home during Eid, but there was no celebration inside me. Only questions, only silence, only the heavy weight of uncertainty. People around me smiled, laughed, celebrated, and I stood there, pretending everything was okay. Because sometimes, the strongest people are the ones who hide their pain the best. I decided to start again. Back in my city, Alipur, I opened my computer shop once more. Medina Computer. That name wasn't just a business name. It was hope. It was identity. It was me trying one more time. For a while, things started to move again. Customers came back. Work slowly returned. Life started breathing again. And just when I thought, maybe this time it will last, the world changed. A virus. Invisible. Silent. Deadly. The world called it COVID-19. But for people like me, it wasn't just a virus. It was the collapse of everything we had rebuilt. Lockdowns began. Streets went. I remember sitting inside my shop, looking at the empty chairs, the silent computers, the closed door, and asking myself, Akhtar, how many times will you start over? I had no choice. Once again, I had to leave everything behind. I closed my business and went out looking for a job. This time, my journey took me to Lahore, a big city, full of dreams and full of deception. I searched for work everywhere, day after day, hope after hope, rejection after rejection. Until one day, I found an opportunity, or at least, that's what I thought. It was a company. They spoke big words, big promises, big dreams. They told me, you can become successful, you can become rich, you can change your life. And for a man who had lost everything twice, those words were powerful. So I joined. That company was called Tienz. At first, everything looked perfect. Motivational talks, energetic people, dreams being sold like reality. But slowly, the truth started revealing itself. It wasn't about growth. It wasn't about skill. It wasn't about real success. It was about illusion, about trapping people in dreams and making them chase something that didn't exist. I stayed there for a while, trying to believe, trying to make it work, trying to convince myself, maybe this is the opportunity I was waiting for. But deep inside, I knew the truth. This wasn't my path. This wasn't real. And once again, I walked away. Empty-handed, tired, but not broken. I returned home again, not as a winner, but not as a quitter either. Because every time life pushed me down, I stood up again. This time, I decided to do something different. I joined Alman & Builders as a computer operator. A simple job, simple salary, but stable. And sometimes, stability is more valuable than dreams. For 2 years, I worked there, silently, sincerely, without complaints. Because by now, life had taught me something. Not every phase is about winning. Some phases are about surviving. And I survived, day by day, month by month, year by year. Then, another opportunity came. Punjab Food Grains Department. A new place, a new start, a new hope. I worked there for a few months, but something inside me was still restless. I wasn't made to just survive. I wanted more. I needed more. So once again, I made a decision. I left the job. People might call it madness, leaving jobs again and again, starting over again and again. But they don't understand one thing. When you have seen rock bottom, you stop fearing failure. I decided, I will do business again, no matter what. I opened a mobile shop, a small one, at Phulan Chowk. New hope, new energy, new beginning. For a few months, things worked. Not amazing, but enough to survive, enough to breathe. And then, it happened again. The same story, the same struggle, the same ending. I had to shut it down. At that moment, I felt something I had never felt before. Not sadness, not anger, but exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that reaches your soul. I remember sitting alone one night, thinking, Maybe success is not written for me. Maybe this is my destiny. But deep inside, a small voice whispered, "No, Akhtar, your story is not over yet." And that voice saved me. There comes a moment in every man's life when he gets tired, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. That moment had finally arrived in my life. After failing again and again, after starting over more times than I could count, after watching every small success slip through my hands, I was exhausted. Not from work, but from hope. I remember sitting alone one night. No noise, no people, just me and my thoughts. And I asked myself one simple question. Akhtar, how much more can you take? There was no answer, just silence. But then, something inside me changed. I realized something powerful. If life is going to test me, then I will become the hardest test life has ever faced. And that's when I made a decision, not based on fear, but based on courage. I decided to take one last risk. I sold everything I had. Everything. Savings, belongings, comfort, security. Because sometimes, to build something real, you have to risk everything fake. I returned to Alipur, with nothing in my hands, but fire in my heart. This time, I didn't want a job. I didn't want small survival. I wanted something big, something stable, something that could change my life forever. And that's when an idea came to me. A hotel. In a developing society, Almanan City. A place where people were coming, where opportunity was growing, where I thought, this could be it. So I did it. I built a small hotel. Not luxury, not perfect, but honest. The opening day, I still remember it. Hope was in the air. Dreams were alive again. And then, something beautiful happened.